Good morning and welcome for coming to this important event. Let's give a round of applause to the Butler High School Brass Ensemble for sharing their incredible musical talents with us this morning. Outstanding, outstanding work. Hi, I'm Carl Armato, President of Novant Health and Chair of the MeckEd Board of Directors. MeckEd is a nonpartisan, independent nonprofit that informs, educates, and engages the community around public education issues. MeckEd mobilizes leadership, rallies resources, and engages the community so that all Charlotte-Mecklenburg students achieve significant, measurable academic success. And I'll say that again, all students achieve significant academic success. We know you're here like MeckEd. You know that the success of our school district determines the overall health and vitality of our entire community. We can't think of a better way to fulfill MeckEd's mission than by bringing all of you, members of our community, together to celebrate what's working in our public schools, to challenge ourselves to continue dreaming about what's possible in public education, and to work collaboratively to achieve those dreams. Look around the room today. Imagine for a moment that each of us and thousands more like us will focus more of our energy, our will, and our time on supporting our public schools. The possibilities are endless. MeckEd's hope is that you leave this morning better informed with a deeper understanding of how difficult and complex the work of improving schools is, and with a greater sense of urgency to support this work. And throughout the morning, I challenge you to think about what you can do and with your friends and your sphere of influence can do for schools in our community. I'd like to recognize my fellow MeckEd board members. If all of you could please rise. Bo Boylan, Madeline Capel, Karen Fesperman, Anthony Fox, Molly Griffin, Pamela Howes, Sid Levy, Richard Nichols, Cheryl Richards, Wes Simmons, Krista Tillman, Luann Tucker. Thank you for your service. As you know, MeckEd is a champion for excellent public education, again, for all children in our community. MeckEd was created in 2006 out of the merger of 4 education entities in Mecklenburg County, and is now the only education nonprofit whose program of work encompasses leadership cultivation, community engagement, and college and career readiness. MeckEd relies on donations from individuals, businesses, foundations, and the general community to sustain our program of work. This important State of Education breakfast is possible only through generous support of our donors and sponsors. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize their tremendous investment in MeckEd, our schools, and our community. Thank you to our platinum sponsors, Allen Tate Companies, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. Thank you to our silver sponsor, Novant Health. Thank you to our bronze sponsors, Central Piedmont Community College, the Charlotte Chamber, the Charlotte Observer, Discovery Education, the Foundation for the Carolinas, Johnson, Allison, and Horde, Northeastern University Charlotte, PwC, and Snyder's Lance Incorporated. Sponsors, please rise and allow us the opportunity to thank you for your generous support. As well as I'd like to take a moment to thank 3 individuals who contributed to the success of this event today, investing their personal time, efforts to ensure that the community at large was aware of this important education summit. Tracy Hill, Mark Hockman, and Debbie Rubenstein, thank you for your generous support of MeckEd and our students. And now I'd like to welcome a fellow MeckEd board member, former CMS school board chair, and lifelong advocate for CMS, Molly Griffin. Molly?
Thanks, Carl. Once again, good morning to all of you. We are so thrilled that you're here with us today. I have the privilege of introducing our elected representatives and officials who are in the audience today. I know we have several school board members and county commissioners and at least one representative from the North Carolina House. Would y'all please stand so we can thank you for your service to our community? We also have some other very special and important guests with us today, our MeckEd Teachers of Excellence. Some of you may not have heard about this new program for MeckEd. This spring, we held our very first competition to find and honor 40 outstanding teachers throughout CMS. These teachers were selected after a very rigorous selection process. They've not only mastered instructional processes, but they're leaders in their schools and in their communities. We want to share with you a short video about the reception that honored these wonderful educators.
MeckEd can think of no better way to fulfill our mission than by celebrating and honoring educators.
What we want to do is make sure that this entire community rallies around the teachers.
The teachers play an extremely critical role in the success of CMS, which in turn determines the overall health and vitality of our community.
This community really needs the connecting that MeckEd does.
Excellent teaching does not exist in a vacuum. What makes me effective are the hundreds of colleagues that are at my school.
It gives me hope that our community truly does value the profession of teaching and understands how important it is to have great public schools.
As you can see, these teachers are shining examples of the wonderful work being done each day in the classrooms across CMS. They truly deserve our respect and our appreciation in this community. Teachers of Excellence, would you please stand so that we can applaud you once again? It's impossible not to be optimistic about our future when we have educators like you leading our classrooms. Thank you so much for your commitment to our children. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Bill Anderson, the Executive Director of MeckEd, and Dr. Anderson is going to recognize the MeckEd Education Champion of the Year.
Thank you, Molly. We decided to initiate the Education Champion of the Year Award to recognize a leader in our community who has stepped up in a big way to advocate for our public schools. A MeckEd Education Champion is a true leader in this community who cares deeply about schools even though they're not required or paid to do so. They rally around the district in times of crisis and also in times of great success. And they are constantly seeking solutions rather than sitting back and complaining. It's MeckEd's great pleasure to honor Pat Riley as the 2012 Education Champion of the Year. Pat, would you please come forward? For those of you who don't know, and I bet there aren't many of you, Pat is the President and Chief Operating Officer of the Allen Tate Companies. He has been a determined and tenacious advocate for education for the past 2 decades in our community. He believes that public education, like the arts and the Chamber of Commerce, must be strong and effective if we're to have a vibrant community. He has served as the past president of the Charlotte Advocates for Education before it merged and became MeckEd. Pat has co-chaired 2 bond campaigns alongside our elected officials. And as the chamber chair, public education and diversity were 2 of his major platforms. As the chair of the Arts and Science Council and current chair of the ASC Cultural Vision Plan, education continues to be one of his explicit priorities. At Allen Tate, he has created the Tate Fun Day, which is celebrated each fall for the past 15 years. The goal of this event is to raise money for public education. Over the years, Pat has raised $500,000 in support of MeckEd and numerous other vital educational organizations in our community. He understands how important it is to have strong public schools in all zip codes and across the entire community. But most importantly, he's willing to have the tough conversations, put in the time, call in the favors, and get the work done to ensure the best final results. Tireless is how I describe my friend Pat Riley. Please join me now in celebrating the 2012 Education Champion, Pat Riley.
Thank you. I humbly accept this because this thing should be broken down into a million pieces, because I'm looking out here and I'm saying there's many, many, many of you that are working twice as hard as I have. This board, this nonprofit is one of what my speech on what makes Charlotte-Mecklenburg what it is the 8 fingers, and this is one of those eight special nonprofits that the government looks at left and right to say what is the next best move to make sure that we do create candidates for the jobs that are out there. We hear so much about unemployment out there, but there is good jobs. I went to hire 4 or 5 interns this summer. It's amazing how many kids are not equipped to even do a summer internship because of technology today touching every piece of our world. It is a mission, it's a passion. This is the first board when I came down here 20 years ago with open arms. Isaiah Tidwell and Dr. Woodward reached out and saw my passion to public education with the Chamber, and Kit Kramer in those days, and took me aboard in this board, and we followed it. My team here, I can't say enough of my team, that $500,000. October 2nd, we have our next fun day, and we go out there tirelessly and raise money for MeckEd and numerous other public education-driven activities. And I can't thank them enough, my family, for the support, for the time that they allow me to devote to my passion. My passion stems around 2 things, folks, and one is that selfishly, for each and every one in this room, is the schoolhouse at the end of the street determines the value of our real estate. I'm in the real estate business. I've been in 4 states now. Absolutely unequivocally, the biggest piece of what we own on this earth is our homes. And guess what? The value of that home is tied to the perception of the schoolhouse at the end of the street, period. The second is my team here are leaders. My leaders are here. Each one of them, 38 branches, is just like a schoolhouse. And I know which branches thrive based on the leader in that office. This world's built around leadership. So my passion is to have the best possible principal in every schoolhouse that can attract and retain the best teachers. I'm now serving on a state business committee to have state reform, and we're going to do it. Anna Nelson out there, what she and her team is doing here as an example for the country. Together we can do it. Please, please, never lose sight that together we can make it happen, but it's going to take each and every one of us. Thank you for this honor.
I have something for you. Thank you, Pat, for inspiring other business leaders and community leaders to play a significant role in our public schools. And those words from Pat ring so true. Speaking of business leaders getting involved in education, MeckEd is thrilled to launch a new program. It's called MeckTech. And MeckTech will enable businesses to engage in schools in a new and exciting way. Our first MeckTech advisor, Melissa Varela, will share more about the program and is going to introduce you to a student who is already benefiting from an extraordinary business education partnership. Melissa?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa Varela. I am the new MeckTech advisor. I've been working in CMS middle schools with middle schoolers in CMS for the last 7 years. And I can't tell you how excited a middle schooler gets when they talk about what they want to be when they grow up or what they're going to do after they get out of high school. I joined the MeckEd team because no matter what a student's goals are, whether they want to go to a 4-year college, community college, or a technical school, they need more guidance and support around exactly how to go about achieving those goals. and they also need more opportunities to explore the options that are available to them. The MeckTech program will increase students' awareness of post-secondary options, as well as, as well as providing workplace learning opportunities such as apprenticeships and internships. And as a result of that, more students are going to be able to graduate from high school prepared for college or career. We're currently working, right now I'm working at Vance High School, and in addition to that, we're working with James Martin Middle School and Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School. And so it's really exciting that this partnership has started. I'm really excited to introduce to you Hope Johnson. Hope Johnson started her apprenticeship with Siemens during her junior year at Olympic High School, and she's currently, she graduated in June, and she is working full-time at Siemens while pursuing her associate's degree in mechatronics engineering. I think I got that right. So everyone, here's Hope.
Hi, sorry. As she said, my name is Hope Johnson, and I've been working for over a year now at Siemens Energy off of Westinghouse. And I did just graduate from Olympic High School, specifically the Global International School at Olympic. And I've been going to Central Piedmont Community College for over a year now, and actually I'm supposed to be in class at the moment, so, well, I'm here to tell you about how I got started in this program and how much it's actually meant to me in my life. And my counselor was the first person to actually mention this program to me. She took the top 10 kids of the international school and brought us in, and she's like, here's a great opportunity for you. And when I first heard about the opportunity, I was like, okay, I'll go see about it, because they said that they would pay for my college, that it'd be a good summer job, because it was just talking about an internship in the beginning. And I had already had my summer planned out. I had won a scholarship through CMS to go to the Dominican Republic, and I already knew what college I wanted to go to. I wanted to go study international relations. Honestly, no interest in engineering whatsoever. But I went to the assembly that my boss Pam Alves was actually speaking at, and I wanted to see the factory. She kept talking about all these turbines and these generators, and I had no clue what she was talking about. And so I wanted to go see what she was talking about. I was like, I'm not going to write you off just yet. I'm going to go see what you're doing. And so me and my parents and a bunch of other kids from Olympic, because this was actually an opportunity just for our school, which was amazing because it's a big school, so it was great that we actually got this opportunity. And I went and saw the factory, and I think even Pam knew it, and the other 5 apprentices, we knew this is what we wanted to do for the rest of our lives. It was amazing to go in there and see these giant, like, multiple-ton things, and I felt like a little ant because I'm short as is. So it was an absolutely amazing experience, and it helped show all of us that we wanted to be a part of something as big as this company. And so I signed on, I canceled my trip, I canceled all of my plans, and this is what I was doing. And luckily enough, after the internship, which was grueling and projects and a lot of dirt and grime to get through, Pam actually gave us the opportunity to come on as 3-year apprentices at Siemens, and every single one of us said yes on the spot. We didn't even have to question it. And my parents were skeptical about it. I will be honest. They always wanted me to go to a 4-year college, do the normal route, because neither of my parents graduated from a 4-year college. And I explained to them, I was like, I will go to a 4-year college after my associate's degree. This is the best opportunity for me at this moment, and it's what I wanted to do. So they let me decide, and I took the opportunity, and now I've still got a 4.0 at CP, and hopefully... and hopefully will after making up the work I'm missing right now. And I graduated with National Honor Society at high school, even though I was missing half days because I was working at Siemens. And now I can specifically tell you what each part of that plant does. I can look at a generator and explain every mill and drill process, every hole that's drilled into it, and why that hole is drilled there. I can do all that after just a year at Siemens. And I mean, it's very difficult for me to explain everything that I've learned there, because even from not my mentors, even from the people in the office, there's always something to learn. Because as the person before me said, it's amazing to see how you're not prepared for the workforce sometimes. And I had a job before this. I mean, I worked at Kumon. I was a tutor for little kids, but that had nothing to the business world. I mean, suddenly I was dressing up every day. I had to be at this place at this time. I couldn't be late. It was definitely an eye-opener for all of us, because, I mean, we're high school students. We're going through our senior year, coming in and having to suddenly deal with the business world. I mean, we're the youngest people in the entire plant. But we've all managed to do it with ups and downs, but we're all where we need to be at the moment. And we've had some amazing mentors. They've chosen people that were been there for 40 and more years that are teaching us their trade, and there's not a complaint we can say. They take you in, and it's like you're their daughter now, because, I mean, you're the little girl on the plant, but they still make you work. I mean, even though I'm this small, I still got to get up on big rotors and start trying to measure them and stuff. It gets very entertaining, but I could spend hours trying to tell you. So, but I'm going to shut up now because they probably want me to go, but it's an amazing experience, and because of programs like this, students are being able to find their paths in life, and I can't thank anyone enough, from Olympic to Pam to even MeckEd. I can't thank you all enough for something like this.
You know, I've heard Hope speak a couple of times, and the first time I heard her speak, she goes, "I'm so nervous." She isn't nervous anymore. What a bright spot in our community. Thank you, Hope. We hope that you agree that opportunities like these, which Hope has been afforded, are critical for developing our future workforce and ensuring graduates are either college or career ready. We need to make sure that students are college or career ready, and the key language here is post-secondary educational opportunities. A high school diploma is clearly not enough. She's going to go to CP for a year or two. Probably going to transfer to NC State for an engineering degree, but it's because of the internship opportunity that she had. Now, a real quick pitch for our program. For those business leaders in our community who might be interested in learning more about MeckTech, Melissa Varela will be at the back today to accept your business cards if you're interested in providing some workplace learning opportunities for the students at Vance High School, and we do hope to expand this program as we go forward. In a moment, we're going to hear from Superintendent Heath Morrison and then Dr. Steve Perry. But first, we want to give you a chance to weigh in on some pressing issues in public education. Teachers and parents, I know you're used to telling your students to put their cell phones away, but we're going to do something a little bit different. And if you've ever attended a MeckEd event before, you know that we're really big into poll everywhere. So get out your cell phones. Please turn them to silent. And we're going to ask you two questions. The first question is, in your opinion, what is the key to closing the achievement gap in CMS? Now, you can vote in a couple of ways, but the easiest way clearly is to use texting. And the way you cast your vote is you enter the number at the top of the screen, which is going to be 22333, where you would regularly enter a contact name or a phone number. And then enter the keyword corresponding the option of the choice of your answer. Again, the question is, in your opinion, what is the key to closing the achievement gap? And you have a number of choices. So what you'll do is 22333 at the top, and then type in the body of the email one of those words. And the first is learning opportunities beyond the traditional day school. You type in beyond, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you think is most important? Now, we know that you're seeing the results pour in now, but this is a good way for us to engage all of the audience in our events. And it looks like the results are coming in pretty quickly. Parental involvement seems to be leading right now. So we'll see highly effective teachers, access to pre-K. Highly effective teachers is definitely winning. Okay, well, this will continue. It's a little slow in this building. It's not great reception, but this will continue. So we're going to go on to our second question. Now this is going to be a little bit different. Now we're going to ask you, what do you think the community can do to better support our public schools? You're going to enter that number at the top again, 22333, and then you're going to go to the text, and you have to enter the word schools, a space, and the capitalization doesn't matter, schools, a space, and then type in what you think matters most. The question again is, what do you think the community can do to better support our public schools? Type in the word schools, a space, and then type in your answer. And what we do with this information is we share it with the superintendent and his staff. So this is very important. It doesn't just go away today. We'll share this information with those who make the decisions. And here they come, supporting our teachers. Support teachers again. Cash. Okay, while this is running, at this time we're going to hear from our new superintendent, Dr. Heath Morrison, about what's ahead for CMS and what he believes are the keys to closing the achievement gap. We all know that CMS and districts across the country face many challenges and that there are no quick fixes. Improving our schools is tough and messy work, but we must continue the path forward. Heath will share a bit about what he has learned over his first few months in CMS and his vision of every child, every day, for a better tomorrow. Please give me a warm welcome for our new superintendent, Dr. Heath Morrison.
Good morning. Oh, that's pretty weak. Good morning. Now, I'm excited because Dr. King once said, you begin to die if you fail to speak about the things that you're really passionate about. And so when I talked to Bill about this event, he said, you're going to have 300, maybe more than that, people coming together to talk about this thing that we're so passionate about, and that is educating every single one of our students. So let's try this again. Good morning. Good morning. Much better. Hope, I'll call Tony Zeiss and let him know you're all good, okay? So it's fine. I'm excited about being here today with people who want to champion this cause of education. And it is a cause, it is a calling, and it is a civic duty to educate every single student at a high level in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District. And so I want to begin by thanking all of you for taking the time to be champions of education, to be passionate about one of the most important things that we can talk about, and that is the education of our students and the future of this community, this state, and this country. And so I thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here this morning. I want to give a special acknowledgement to our MeckEd Teachers of Excellence. And so you got it right, folks, when you talked about how important it is for having teachers. I've met these MeckEd Teachers of Excellence. They are excellent. They are champions. They deserve that recognition. They deserve our applause. Let's have them stand up one more time, and let's give them a shout out. I've had the chance to meet with them. I've had the chance to visit many of their classes, and they are just amazing, and we thank them for their service. I want to thank MeckEd for having not only the leadership to have this event, but for their continuing support, their commitment to making a difference in our community, and what a great organization as a superintendent to have, to lean on, to ask for help. This takes a lot of people to get right, and to know that there's an organization like MeckEd, I am so grateful, so grateful. And I also want to extend a special appreciation to Bill Anderson. Now here, sit there and say, that's not necessary. But Bill is an amazing leader and a true champion of this cause of educating all children. He proved it as an educator. He proved it during his time at Myers Park. He's proven it now each and every day. Let's all give Bill a great round of applause for his work and his efforts. Now, I usually like just about everything about Bill, except we're having breakfast the other day and just trying to talk about this work of public education and how we're going to make it better. And I said, so, Bill, what's the theme that you want me to speak to on Thursday? And he said, oh, I want you to get into reforming education. And I said, oh, okay, well, how long do I have? He said, can you make it about 10 minutes? Thanks, Bill. And can you talk a little bit about your vision and what you're going to do? And I said, how long do I have again? 10 minutes. I said, is that an additional 10? No, about 10 minutes. So But I was once told that the best part about public speaking is be relevant, be brief, and then be seated. So, Bill, I'll try to stay in my time frame, and I'm obviously very excited about hearing from our guest speaker today. Because as superintendent, I say all the time, I consider myself a teacher on special assignment, and so I love being at functions like this and learning from everyone in this room and also from our noted speaker, Dr. Perry. So, Charlotte-Mecklenburg, and looking forward. And it's an important topic, and it's a relevant topic. And I'm sure you're waiting to hear what are all the things that the new superintendent's going to do, those new initiatives, those new strategies, what's the change going to be? And I'm going to tell you, put the pens down, because I'm about to disappoint you, because that's not actually what I'm going to talk about. It's incredibly important for me to make sure that I do what I said I was going to do when I was hired. And what I said I was going to do was I was going to come into this community with respect, with humility, and I was going to listen and learn. I was going to do what Stephen Covey said, which was seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so I didn't put out my strategies and the new initiatives. I put out an entry plan. And that entry plan spoke about my intentionality to reach out to this community, visit every school, talk to our teachers, talk to our principals, listen to our parents, listen to our students, listen to our civic leaders, our political leaders, our faith-based leaders, and begin to build a coalition of what we're going to do together to make this community better through improving the quality of education for all of our 141,000 students. And I did say that right. We just welcomed not only 2,000 students more than we thought. We actually ended up now with 3,000 students more than we thought we were going to have. So we're at 141,000 students. So we have 141,000 reasons to get this right. So I'm amazed by people who stand behind the podium when they come in new and they tell you that they're going to change this and change that. A new football coach at a college who says we're going to run this offense and this defense. How do you know? How do you know that that's the right one unless you've really spent the time to listen? I was up in District 1 yesterday, visited 7 schools, had a chance to talk to a Rotary up there. I learned more things yesterday, and I'll continue to learn. And I'll continue to reach to build those coalitions so that when we begin to talk about those strategies and initiatives, they will be the right strategies and the right initiatives, the right reforms for Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. And so it's easy to turn around and talk about reform. Now, I was in Reno, Nevada, and we got a lot of notice across the country for the things that we were doing. Someone once labeled us one of the most reform-minded districts in the country, and we had a lot of good success. We had increase in test scores, a narrowing of the achievement gap, a rapid increase of our graduation rates. I'm so proud of the hard work of our board, our principals, our teachers, our community, and the work that I was doing in my prior school district. But I never thought of us as a reform-minded school district. I never thought of myself as a reformer. I just wanted to make it a little bit better tomorrow than it was today. And I wanted to make it a whole lot better in the future than it was yesterday. And if that's reform, sign me up. But I'm not into change for change's sake. I'm into change for the sake of being better. And so we're going to go a different path in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District. I'm not going to come in with the strategies and the execution. We're going to do the hard work of assessing where we are right now. What are we doing well, and what can we do better? And then we're going to start building relationships. It's going to be partner by partner, civic group by civic group, faith-based agency to faith-based agency. But we are going to create that coalition of the willing to do our important work. Then we're going to move from relationships to trust. We know in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District there are some trust capital issues that we have to confront. But how can we do the important work, the bold things we want to do, if people don't inherently trust that we're of good intent and that we do have the right ideas and suggestions? And so we have to build that public trust capital. And then we're going to move into what we call our big BHAGs. I'm like, what is that? Big, hairy, audacious goals. Because we have to be bold on behalf of children. We can't be timid, and it's not for the people who want to keep it the way it's always been. It's about looking forward to the way it needs to be for 141,000 students. Then we'll start to talk about the strategies. Then we'll start to talk about the execution. Now, if I was going to come into Charlotte-Mecklenburg and say, okay, I'll be there about 3, 4, maybe 5 years, then we wouldn't do that hard work. We'd go right into the strategy and execution. But I came to Charlotte-Mecklenburg to put deep roots down, to not just make it a little bit better, but to let the foundation start to set that's going to radically transform our organization as not only a vibrant entity for our students, but to be part of a better community. And there's no place better to do that in Charlotte, because in Charlotte, we don't talk about why we can't, we talk about how we can, and that's what we're going to have to do. So when we talk about this work that we're going to do, the hard work, the difficult work, we've got to realize that what we are talking about doing is not narrowing achievement gaps. We're talking about closing achievement gaps. Now, there's two ways you can close achievement gaps. You can lower the bar so everybody jumps over it, and that's not the way we're going to do it. A rising tide lifts all ships. So we will raise the bar, and we will close that achievement gap. Not narrow, but close. But that's going to take hard work, focused work, and it's going to take the entire community to do that. And so when you look at what causes achievement gaps, there was a study 2 years ago, and it was called Chance of Success. And it said, what were the things that impacted the chance that a young person, before they ever enter school, is not going to graduate? What are the primary things that will keep that young person, unless there's intentional, deliberate action, to change their fortune? And there were three primary factors. The educational attainment of the parent. If the parent graduated, chances are the student was going to graduate. If the parent went to college, chances are the student was going to go to college. The second thing was poverty. And the third thing was the intentionality of the educational program. Now, many times in education, when we talk about reform, we say, well, we only have control over that third thing. We can't do anything about the other two things. But I suggest to you we can. So let's talk about the educational attainment of the parent. Because if you think about education like a game, some parents know every rule of the game. Other parents know that there are some rules of the game, and other parents don't even know that there's a game being played. So we can change what's happening with our parents by partnering, by reaching out, by offering support, by realizing that the way we've done parent engagement and involvement in the past shouldn't be the way we can do it in the future. And we can be part of educating our entire community and partnering with parents different than we've ever done it in the past. When we look at the devastating impact of poverty, and it is an impact, but it is a challenge. I promise you it's not a barrier. And so what we can do is to make sure as a school system, as a community, we don't do what so many school districts have done in the past, and that's give kids who come to school with less at school. Because what happens all across this country and each and every day is we give students impacted by poverty the least effective teachers, the most new teachers. We give them the worst facilities, no access to technology, aged textbooks, and then we wonder why they can't learn. So we can be bold enough to say if people start on a differentiated playing field and we want everybody to have the same goal at the end, then we have to differentiate our approach. We have to personalize the learning progress to make sure that every one of our students has that goal at the end of success. And then we have a lot of control in this idea of reform around the intentionality of the educational program. We can be about putting a great teacher in every classroom. We can insist that we have a great principal in every single one of our schools. We can give our students the blessing and the need for pre-K programs in early childhood. We can extend the learning opportunities, and we can have a standard of rigor so that the goal is not a 90% graduation rate. The goal is 100% of students walking across the stage, getting the diploma that's a passport for a better tomorrow, that is a post-secondary plan. For some it will be college, 4-year or 2-year. For some it will be a highly skilled career. For some it will be the military. Whatever it is that they choose, we need to get them ready for that experience. And so that is what we're going to start talking about with reform. Those are the things that we're going to focus on. They will not be easy. They will not be without challenge. They will not be without conversations that will be hard, because we're going to put every difficult conversation that we take a pass on in this country, and in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District, we are going to take it head on. But we can't take it on alone. We need our community to rally around this concept of being about every child, every day for a better tomorrow. Why do I know we're going to succeed? Because we're in Charlotte. And in Charlotte, we don't ask why we can't. We ask how we can. We're bold enough to think that we can get an NFL team and a professional basketball team, and yeah, I do talk about the Bobcats. We can bring one of the major political party conventions to our city, and not only can we do those things, we can do them well. Why can't we talk about educating children better than anywhere else in the country? And not more than talk about it, let's get together and do it. And so a wise lady once said, Margaret Mead, never let it be forgotten that a small group of people can change the world. In fact, it's really the only thing that ever has. In the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District, let's let that small group of people be 18,000 people who work for our school district and the community committed to this cause. Let's do it one student at a time, and let's be about every child, every day, for a better tomorrow. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you very much, Heath. And now for a national perspective, we have the privilege of hearing from one of the most dynamic, straight-talking leaders in education today. Born into poverty, Dr. Perry believes that success in life is determined by where you end, not where you started. It's this philosophy that inspired him early on to transform the lives of low-income and minority children by providing them with access to a great education. In 2004, Dr. Perry founded Capital Preparatory Magnet School to serve students in Hartford, Connecticut's lowest performing district. We have a special treat for 2 audience members. You are the lucky winners of a signed copy of Dr. Perry's newest book, Push Has Come to Shove. If you please check the back side of your program and there's a MeckEd sticker, you're a winner. Congrats. See the MeckEd staff on the way out. And at this time, I ask that Charlotte provide a very warm welcome for Dr. Steve Perry.
What's happening, Charlotte? So, one thing that happens is when we have a conversation, as you'll soon see, sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we won't. But fortunately, I got a ticket flying me back, so y'all don't have to agree with a single thing I say. And it's clear that I will never be a superintendent because that's the job that doesn't sound like it's fun. You know, it's important to understand that more than anything, I'm a father. And so I'm going to talk to you as a parent, really. And I'll talk to you as a dad, which is its own thing. Right, Dad? You understand? Moms, I know you think you understand because you think you know everything. Sorry. See, y'all are used to being in church where you hoop and holler. Well, with me, it's more like a roller coaster ride to be, woo, ah, he really said that. Y'all brought me here. Should have watched the tapes. One of my sons recently asked me, the 9-year-old, he and the 7-year-old, the 7 one's the haunted one. And he asked me, Dad, what makes you cry? I thought, that's a stupid question. Because no dad really wants to tell it, right? The father's looking at me like, you ain't tell him, did you? And so, I try to come up with those dad answers. Well, son, seeing you not reach your potential would make me cry. See, moms, I'm going to translate for you. We really don't like to cry. So there are only so many times that we can that it makes sense. And really the question is one of what do you value, right? I'll tell you a little bit about a story about a young man who grew up in poverty. And the reason why I'm going to tell you that story is an opportunity to engage you in what we value. When I come to Charlotte, I've been to Charlotte a few times. My family's from North Carolina. And they're very, very proud of it. And as I think everyone from North Carolina is. Y'all take this North Carolina thing really seriously. It's not a game. And so my visits here show me what you value. So you value a downtown. Like y'all got the downtown thing done. It's beautiful. You win. Thumbs up to you. You value churches a lot. I think you invented church. But the question is, do you value education? Right. See, because I'm going to talk to you. That's why I'm not a superintendent, because I'm going to tell you what it really is and what it's not. So you don't have to keep me hired. You just have to recognize that I love you enough to bring you the God's honest truth. The circumstances that exist here in Charlotte's education system, it's not cool. It's unfortunate that it's guaranteed that if you're an African American male, that you're almost not going to graduate. It's bizarre, really. Bizarre that you don't have just an achievement gap. You got two different school systems. They're not even the same. The question becomes, what do you value? How important are these children to you? Do they even count? Do they even matter? Because it's hard to argue that you value them when the very purpose for them being in school doesn't seem to make its way towards them. Take it one step further. You value sports. Yeah, a lot. So you can make a kid a great athlete. You can convince a child to put a helmet on in this god-awful heat. Practice from sun up to sundown. But somehow can't motivate these same children to go into a classroom and perform. See, we can talk about poverty as if it's this inanimate object, as if it's something that stands in the way of a child's capacity to learn, but I've yet to meet a child for whom poverty is a limiting factor. See, the child that I'm talking about is one that I've seen so many times before. His mother was abused. Later on, she was beaten up by her husband. And he watched it. And he had to go to school with that on his heart. But see, when you send a child to a good school, you can change a child's life. See, y'all know that because you make sure your kids go to good schools. Oh yeah, you'll pay quite a bit to make sure that you can send your child to a good school. See, the challenge here is to see all the children as your children, not just the ones who you are responsible for in your house. And if I can get you to think about what matters to you, what makes you cry, then you begin to see that it's an abomination to see children who were born through no fault of their own, to parents to no fault of their own, into schools that are your fault. See, everybody here knows every raggedy school here in Charlotte. Every single person in this room could run their hands across the building that they would never send a child to. Never send a child to, because if you love these children, then you can only do the thing that matters, which is to send them to a good school. See, that is really the hallmark of a good parenting experience, right? I find it strange so often that we blame parents for not being involved. You think they want to go to that school? Nobody wants to go to that school. The teachers are absent all the time. The kids try not to go. Everybody, man, I ain't going on there for nothing. And you have to understand that I really am a principal. Still, I had to take a personal day. I'm a public school principal, so I promise you there's somebody who's checking to see if I'm really where I said I was going to be. Can't stand these people. My grandmother, this is how you know she's from North Carolina. She used to say, I swear for God. I don't really know what it means, but it seemed to mean a lot to her. So I swear for God. She say the devil is so busy. Y'all must have known my grandmother. We know that when we care about children, we send them to schools that work. And when schools don't work, we shut them down. See, I don't believe in ed reform. I believe ed reform is a lie. That's something that you do for grown people. Ed reform is what we're doing in Hartford. Ed reform is a 20-year plan. What the hell is a 20-year plan? Is it a mortgage? Can you have a kid's only supposed to be in school for 18 years? What's a 20-year plan? At what point do we start to make the honest decision? See, one of the things that we do wrong is we decide what political party we belong to. I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm an independent, which is just another word for whatever you really wanted to be, but you're trying to sound like you're some edgy person. Not really down with those Democrats. I'm an independent, but I'll vote for Barack Obama every single time. When you stick a poll in an idea and say that it's one party's, then you are a fool. And fools can't lead because there are good ideas on both sides. See, when you're down with the kids, when the kids are what motivate you, when the kids are what make you cry, then you don't want to be in a party. You want to be part of a movement. You want to change people's lives. See, Ed Revolution isn't about going in and changing the name on a school and firing the principal and calling it a new school. Got the same secretary that's mean to everybody. You call, she's like, hello? Sorry, did I get you at your home? He ain't here. Right. Same custodians who can't clean anything. You know, it's amazing to me. So often I go into schools and they talk about the squalor of schools. You pay people to clean, man. There are people who have a job to clean. If the place ain't clean, then somebody ain't doing their job. Of the unions that I don't get along with, comes as a shock to you. The custodians unions, they really don't like me. I done fired 4 of their people in 2 years. I tell them when one of them call me racist. He's black. They throw it all out. When you love children, you put them in an environment that shows love. See, I know when a kid comes to school who's loved because I can tell. Even though our children are in uniforms, I can tell from one child to another. Here, I'm gonna share some, white folks, I'm gonna share something with you. Just stay with me for a second. Black people understand this. We know when a child is loved with one word: Vaseline. They'll explain it to you later. You can create an environment within which children feel loved, and they will come to school and they will work their behinds off when you put great teachers in front of them. We know how to run great schools, folks. Listen, if you want to study something, see, I'm not up on the, you know, I don't have that kind of time. I'm too busy working. So you can create a school in which children are loved by making sure that the best teachers are in front of them. You can talk about poverty all you want, but I've seen children like the one I'm telling you about succeed, right? Because they went into a place where people made it possible for them to feel good about themselves. And very often it's not the school itself, it's some outside organization, some upper bound program or something like that that says, man, I know your school sucks, but you got to go anyway. You got to get as much education as you can out of that building. And they shepherd them through this. They make sure they get with the right teachers, and they make sure they get to the right circumstances. They make sure they do the right things, and they go on a college visit that the school is not providing. See, you know what school is a good school because you know what school you're going to send your children to. You don't need to look at the latest test scores and the data. You just think, would I send my kid there? Nah. You are the most powerful people in this community. Yet and still, you become complicit when you allow failed schools to stay open. See, I'm one of those people who believes that both sides of the aisle seem to have a keen understanding of what the problems are, and as such also are delusional. For instance, I look at something that Mitt Romney puts out, and he says that he wants to do essentially voucher out all kids who are low income and special ed. I actually like that idea. I also look at what President Obama talks about with regards to giving money and in some way excusing loans all the way down. I actually like that idea. Neither one of them will ever work, but they're really good ideas. They're fantastic ideas. As ideas go, it doesn't get much better than that. Put a turkey in every pot and we got this party going. What we need to understand is there are practical solutions that we've seen exist over and over again. I hear conversations about overcrowded classrooms. I just had a conversation here with some teachers. They were telling me they had about 200 teachers in a school that's got about 2,500 students, and they say they have overcrowded classrooms. I don't know how that's possible. That's a student-teacher ratio of almost 20 to 1. That ain't overcrowded at all. That sounds like a poor resource issue. See, when you as business people start asking the questions about what really is what, then you can start to peel back the onion and say, well, it's not an issue of resources, it's an issue of how you're using your resources. See, you can run better schools when you have an ed revolution. When you say that this model just doesn't work anymore because no one who loves their child would send their child to this school, least of all me if they had a choice, then you must begin to create new choices. New choices of that. If it's charter schools, if it's Catholic schools, if it's public schools, if it's, I don't care. See, I don't believe that one kind of school is better than any other. I just believe that the best schools are the best schools. And until such time as all the schools are good schools, only send kids to good schools, no matter the designation. Too often we're concerned with nostalgia. We say, well, that school that I grew up in, that school that we have that's a neighborhood school, if the neighborhood school is not meeting the needs of the neighborhood, then it ain't a school at all. The shot report said that in Charlotte, 39% of the African American boys graduate. It said 70% of the white boys. Folks, at what point do you show the community that you value all children? You could tell me you value all children, but as a visitor, it's hard to make the argument to me. It's hard to make the argument that all children are valued when all children don't receive the same experiences. See, when you really value all children feel valued. All valued children do good things. If you've ever been loved by a child who's not your own, you know that there's something powerful about that, man. If you ever want to cry, and I mean a good cry, if you ever want to have a conversation about what you value, that's where you have the conversation. When a little boy comes up to you and he calls you auntie or dad or uncle, when he tells you he wants to be like you, or you can see that you wore something one day and he wore something kind of similar like his version of it the next day, you cut your hair a particular way, his hair comes back cut similarly. Or when the little girl notices every single thing about you, when you change your earrings, when you do, she knows all this about you because she's watching, she's smelling you. Everything you do, she wants to do. Everything you are, she wants to be. A child who's loved will go through fire for you. I talked to gang members. I was in Newark and I was talking to some gang members. It's not something I do often, and it's not something I suggest you do. I have a lot of jobs, and sometimes people think because I grew up poor that that like I have this like card that I can just go into any hood. Wait, sir, don't shoot me. So I can end up in the Caribbean. Who do you know goes to St. Thomas's talking to Crips? Like, nah, bro, I just want to go to a hotel. I ain't lying. We want you to talk to, no, you don't have to. Hey, can they call me? But in this case, I spoke to some bloods in Newark. And I asked them why they joined. You know, why are you a gang member? And they said, for love. The same reason why I talk to young girls who are in bad relationships is for love. The same reason why I talk to young boys who say that they will be a part of a team and they'll do anything for this coach is for love. See, all these kids want is love, and when they come into a building in which there doesn't feel like there's any love taking place here, then you see the other side of children. See, when you make a child feel like they're not loved, they do really bad things. There's nothing like a child who doesn't fit. Man, they can say some fool. Ooh, they break your heart. You think in 8th grade they said bad things about you? A kid will say something about you that will hurt you so bad that you'll think about it every time you think that little man. Because see, all they know how to do is to react. You know that in good schools, children feel connected to something. So I don't have to tell you that in all good schools you'll find many of the same things. They have an advisory system of some sort that makes the school feel smaller so that every child feels like somebody knows them and they meet with them on a fairly regular basis. I don't have to tell you that there are high expectations in the school and every single person there is expected to do the same thing, and everybody, all the classes are aligned so they make sure. I mean, you know this. But if you know it, how come it isn't so in all your schools? If you know it, how come every single child doesn't have access to it? I hear these parents, these teachers say, well, when we get the children, they're so far behind. They're 4. Real talk, they're 4 years old. They're 4 years old. So for the first 2 years, they were just trying to get upright. Trying to pee and poop at the right time in the right place. You mean to tell me you can't catch a 4-year-old up? Really? Then you suck at your job. Well, the kids don't want to learn. That's a lie. That is a lie. That is a lie. If you ever hear that again, tell that person they're a liar. I've never met a child who didn't want to learn. They may struggle to learn. Who wants to do something that they feel that they've been bad at forever? Right? One of the good things about being a grown person is that you don't have to do those things anymore. It's always funny to me watch dads who can't play a sport, right? And they never could, like you knew them when they were in high school. You're like, man, you couldn't play no damn sports. Everybody knew you was terrible. And then they come out there to try to throw a ball with their son, like, see? As grown people, we don't have to meet that math teacher every day that we don't want to meet. We don't have to take on that subject. We do what we do best, or at least bad. And people pay us for it. And so we feel good about ourselves, and we forget the struggles of having to go into a classroom every single day in which you don't feel valued. See, our children have the capacity to understand what's going on inside us. When they talk about God, they talk about how children have, they've been kissed by God, and like He speaks through them. And it's like the reason why when you bring the new boyfriend to the cookout and somebody hands them a baby, and the baby's like, ah, they're like, ooh, girl, you better let him go. No one thinks for a second this baby doesn't know this man. That's why the baby's acting up. They just figure if he can't calm this baby, something is wrong with him. Well, the same is true of what you see with students. Students understand who loves them and who does not. They do. They really do. And so they know that in that teacher's lounge that you were talking about them like they were dogs. See, I've been in teachers' lounges too many times to hear some of the things that are said about children. They're some of the most vile things that you will ever hear a person say about a child. See, people don't tell you that. See, you guys sit in the business community. No, in the teaching, man, please. Anyone, every educator in here knows and is nodding like, he is really telling the truth. I've had to leave many a teacher's lounge many a times feeling like, wow, and this person's going to go teach this kid history? Oh. See, the kids know that when they come into the classroom. They see, you think that you can hide it, but you can't. That's the thing with kids. Kids can see when you're having trouble at home. See, kids can see when something is different. They know when you're pregnant before your husband did. They can just tell. They're so into because they want to be loved. You got to understand this is the desire to be loved. See, that's what makes them who they are. Children are just feeling beings. It's the reason why middle school girls are the meanest people on earth. Because they just don't know any other way. They just mean because they just seem like they wake up mean. They walk past you to stink. Look at them. Girl, it is too early and you are too young to be this mad. And believe me, as someone who works in the hood, works in an urban school, I deal with it. Just yesterday, we greet all the children every single time, stand outside and shake every hand of every child who comes in because I believe they do that. There's nothing I need to do that important for 20 minutes in my office that I can't get my behind up and shake a child's hand and welcome them back to school. Who knows what that child had to go through to get up out of the house? So why shouldn't I welcome them? I mean, welcome into my house, our house. Welcome home, son. Glad to see you. And I see as the children come through, you watch as they drop the armor. And believe me, I don't really like adults because y'all are tough to work with. And when you become parents, you're ridiculous. No, for real. Y'all think you know everything just because you had a baby. Like, you're the only one who ever done it. So impressed with you. You're all natural and everything. I get the parents who come in pajamas. I mean, straight pajama. I can't tell you it's like pajamas. I'm talking about pajamas, man. I'm just pajamas. No drawers, just walking in. You can see all sorts of things you don't want to see. Like, Jesus, what is she doing? Why is she walking in here like this? Head in a rag. And I'm thinking, was there a fire at the house? You couldn't throw a hoodie on or something? Like, you got to come out like that? And it's embarrassing to me. It's embarrassing to the child. We all sitting there acting like we don't see it. Only person not embarrassed is her. Believe me, I understand that it ain't easy to do this work. This is the work I really do. I don't just do this on television. I ain't just playing this thing. This is really what it is for me. And so when I'm telling you what I know works, I'm not telling you because I read about it. I'm telling you because after this, I'm going back to work this afternoon and I'm going to keep doing it. Reason why we send 100% of our graduates on the 4-year college is because that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to be effective. We're not designed to be people who come up with more excuses as to why I can't work. You know, there are a lot of nice people who are teachers, but not everybody who's a teacher can teach. One of the biggest mistakes that's ever made is because you got a certification and that means that you can teach. I had this really nice guy, Spanish teacher, and we sat down right before I fired him. No, he's a really good dude. I told him, bro, if I had a sister, you could date her. You gonna need a new job and all, but he's a good dude. He was a good father. But see, he was the only person in the room who spoke Spanish. Now, I might look like I speak Spanish, but I don't. But I know what English is, and I know what Spanish is. And I listened to him, and I did not pay him to perform Spanish. I paid him to teach it. With the full expectation that when I pay this man, because his check came on time every 2 weeks, that he's going to do what I'm expecting him to do. These are your employees. These principals are your employees. These teachers are your employees. They're your employees, and the same high expectations that you have for your employees, you need to have for them. Stop taking excuses. Poverty, I don't care what anyone says, is not a reason to stop educating. See, because this kid that I'm telling you about, the kid that I've been going back and forth on, was poor. The difference between poverty and wealth is not always how much you make, because there are people who don't make much but find a way to save a lot and will later on be just fine. See, this is not the poverty of the child, it's the poverty of expectations, it's low expectations that are so often put on certain children. And it's impossible to say that it's not being done here in Charlotte, because this is not a mistake. In order for there to be such an achievement gap, it's endemic. It's accepted that some kids are going to be good at some things and some kids are not, and that's not okay. You say you love all children, then show all the children that you love them. Run the schools in the way in which you know you want your schools run for your kids. What would you accept for your child? See, it's really good to think that just because somebody makes a good living that they're somehow smarter than the rest of us. Well, it's just not true. Just not true. Because now that our school is successful, this has been a strange thing. We're a magnet school, which means we're still a public school, but we have to draw certain kids from outside the community. And in our community, it's a race issue. And so now I have to make sure that there are white kids in there, because they'll shut me down. So I'm going to get T-shirts made up, "Got White People." Apparently being a minority is not as much fun as we make it look, because the white kids do not like being the minorities in my school. They keep leaving. I'm like, no, come on back, Billy. But what I'm finding as I experience this, now we have some suburban students in, right? It's a whole different vibe for me, because I never set out to educate your kids. I like the hood. Let's go into the belly of the beast kind of education. And what I found is it doesn't matter where you live or who your parents are, it really is what happens in the classroom, because you can make the achievement gap fail to exist in a school when you make sure that the achievement gap doesn't exist in the minds of the people who work there. So this young man that I was telling you about, he had seen his mother beaten. He had seen his mother fight to get him into a good school, but all she could do was send him to the local school. But he did see her put her in an upper bound program. He did see him make sure that he had access to the resources that were necessary to be successful. She didn't know. She just filled out an application. Let's not overstate this. And that young man, he was, I guess, what we would consider successful. And so what he did was he did go off to college and graduate school. He got a full scholarship to an Ivy League school. Then he came back to his hometown and ran a homeless shelter. And after that, he wrote 5 books and made his way down here to Charlotte last night. The only thing that separates me from the kids that I went to school with was opportunity. We were all poor. We all had the block of cheese. Some of y'all don't know about the block of cheese. I'm just here to tell you, don't try to make a grilled cheese with the block of cheese, because you have to burn down the house. but you can make some good macaroni and cheese with it if you keep it in there long enough. When I think about what makes me cry, I think about what inspires me. What inspires me is knowing that every single child has access to an education revolution, that we change the game now, that all bets are off, that it's not Democrat or Republican, but it's just child. That you ask the question, does it work for children? Does it make the child's life better? Because if it doesn't make the child's life better, but only makes the adult's life more comfortable, then that's the wrong decision. So I implore you to look at the schools that are failing children and ask yourself, why are we keeping them open? A school that does not educate is not a school any more than a hospital that does not save is not a hospital. Any more than a hairdresser who burns out people's hair is not a hairdresser. Got to know the crowd you're working with here. I need you to understand this, most specifically. You have a big problem with your black boys in particular. It is unconscionable to believe that you would have such an achievement gap. It's not okay, and I'm not prepared to believe that the young men in Charlotte who are African American are unintelligent. I'm unwilling to believe that. Or that they somehow are genetically wired to not want to learn. Or that they somehow come from a different family than even the African American girls. Different neighborhoods or different anything. But you do have to accept that there is a mindset that is showing itself in your data that makes it very clear that there is a group of children who are valued and there are groups of children who are not. You can change that by giving all children access to quality classes immediately. Why is it that there are so few African American boys in your AP classes? We know that it's just a choice that you make. A guidance counselor can simply say, go in AP. You can go in honors. Y'all can make that happen. You can put all kids in college track. You can. There's enough data out there that says that, in fact, if you just put them in there, they actually do right about the same. So you have to stop the gatekeeping. You have to stop it now. See, y'all don't have a problem watching them shoot a basketball or catch a football. You can get that through your mind. That makes sense to you. You watch them dance, sing, and rap. You've seen that a bunch of times. How about thinking of them as different people than you've thought of them before? How about making sure that you have them represented in the highest classes? That's got to stop. It's not okay. See, because you don't realize, those highfalutin educators that are in the room, that everybody's watching us. Spoke to Brother Jamel, who works here at the hotel, and he said, you know, brother, I'm always watching you, and I love what you do, and you inspire me. We're all in this together. There is no sideline in this game. We're all on the field. We're all on the court. We will all either win together or lose together. We will win as champions or we will lose as fools. But I tell you what, we're in the fourth quarter and we are down. If you don't think that generation upon generation of loss of African American men is going to kill your hope, then you will lose as fools. I happen to believe that Charlotte is an amazing place. It's the reason why so many people move here. It's not just the climate, it's the climate. You make people feel welcome here. The eggs might not have been this good this morning, but y'all don't ever have to serve me any more eggs in Charlotte again. Ooh. Felt like I was being punked. Bill, did you pay for it? Sorry. This is a place where people can feel like they're home. From the time I get here, every single time I feel like I'm home. It feels like home. But it's got to feel like home to everybody, not just to me as a visitor, but to your own children. I'll leave you with this. I really am a principal, I mentioned that, but some of the other things I do are around making opportunities available for African American boys in particular. And one of the projects that I'm working on is a new show called Save My Son. And it premieres on September 26th on TV1. A lot of y'all may not know you even have TV1. Just scroll through, go past OWN, keep going down, right around where BET is, right there. Take a tour of your 600 stations. And what it is it's what we do. It's ways in which we can help our young boys get better. You will see stories of young men who would appear to be lost, and you will see what we do to move them forward. I'm telling you that every life is worth saving, every single one. And I pray for Charlotte that you figure out a way to engage all of your children, all of them. Make them all feel loved. Put them all in good classes. Put them all in front of good teachers and good schools. Because when you don't, bad things happen. I'll leave you with this. Thank you for your time. Not so much for the eggs. Thank you for your consideration. Have a wonderful, wonderful morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. Very powerful. We have a quick 2-minute video that we're going to show, and if I could ask Dr. Morrison and Joanna Scamitzi to step up at this time. Julie?
I'm Dr. Steve Perry, principal and founder of the Capital Preparatory Magnet School in Hartford, Connecticut. But I'm here for one reason, to answer mother's desperate cry to save my son.
I'm gonna be honest, I can't control him.
It's not just about saving my son. It's about saving our sons. It's about saving the entire community's worth of sons.
I have a son that's, to me, is out of control. I've tried to do everything in my power to put my child on the right track. I just need some help to get him on the right path.
To say, come home at a reasonable hour, son?
Because I'm worried about your safety.
Right, that's what parents do. That's what parents do.
I'm about to be 18 years old. I can stay out as long as I want.
Is that what you want?
No matter what I've done to help others, I can't help my son then. My whole life. Because then I'm going to consider myself a failure.
People want to talk about their kids. They want to say good things. I don't want to go out and tell people my stepson robbed me. I'm tired. I can't do it anymore. And when it gets so bad where you ask God to take a child from you, it's bad.
This is not TV, man. This is the realest that you're going to see. It doesn't get any realer.
What you've been pulling on your mamas, you can't pull that in here.
All stories don't end well. Some of y'all ain't gonna make it because you want to sleep when somebody's trying to tell you something.
The decisions that you make right now, they're gonna affect you for the rest of your life.
What mothers need to understand is when they stop worrying about their sons failing and start focusing on their vision for success, the son will come along with it.
We were brought into the heart of a family, the heart of an American family that just wants to find a way to save their son.
All right. At this time, you've heard a local perspective, a national perspective, and we have Dr. Perry, Dr. Morrison with us, but we also have Joanna Scamitzi. You heard earlier that Joanna is a teacher at Butler. Joanna was a MeckEd Teacher of Excellence, but I need to tell you just a little bit about her. Joanna doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk. And last year, 100% of her students scored proficient on the biology end of course test. And I can tell you as a former principal, no small feat. At events such as this, our enemy is always time. We had allotted a little bit more time than we're going to have, and so we're going to probably have to reduce this, but I think we can get 3 or 4 questions. So if I could ask audience members, if you have a question, MeckEd staff will come around with the microphone. Over here, we have a young lady.
Yeah, hi. I was wondering on the panel, everyone obviously talks about we need good teachers in the classroom. Obviously, everyone in this room would agree with that. How do you go about, one, finding the good teachers, and two, in the process of finding the good teachers, not making every teacher out to be a bad teacher?
Sounds like that might be a Mr. Morrison and Dr. Morrison and Dr. Perry answer.
Well, we have to first of all realize that we've got to hire for excellence right from the start. Too often in this country we hire for competence. We look at the resume and we ask how much math the math teacher might have without asking how much math can that math teacher educate all children on. And so we've got to hire people who want to come into this field, who love their content, but as Dr. Perry said, love their children as well. We've got to look at the instructional methodologies that they went through at the university level and to make sure that they're really prepared to teach in the classrooms of today and the classrooms of tomorrow. And then we've got to have evaluation systems that really help us do what we have really struggled to in this country, and that is to see who is achieving results. It's not about one test, it's about multiple measures. It's about, and I really liked what Dr. Perry said about, you know, the big thing is about love. You can walk into a classroom and really see who has that relationship, who has the respect of those students. And the same teacher that next door to the person comes into the office of the principal and says, I can't teach these kids. Well, right next door there's someone teaching those kids. So why is that? And so there's a lot to your question, and to honor it with the short amount of time we have. But one thing I promise you, we got to start hiring for attitude and to cease just looking for what's on the resume.
I agree with Dr. Morrison. Something to keep in mind, the best way to get good teachers is to have good principals. I find that too many buildings are staffed with people who are nice enough people, principals, women and men, but they've never really been leaders. If you go back to high school, they weren't the captain of anything. If you go back to college, they weren't the president of anything. They're not leaders. And a school needs to be run by a leader, not an administrator, not somebody who can just take what central office told them to do and then tell you to do it. So that's the first part. The second part is I actually look for, when I'm looking at teachers, I look to see what else they do in their free time. When you love kids, you spend a lot of time with children. You coach. You may had a scout group. You may had a church group or something of that sort. As the superintendent said, the content, I can get you there. I mean, you just have to be ahead of the 10-year-olds. Like, let's just be honest here.
Joanna, do you want a teacher perspective on this?
Sure. I'll say that yesterday I got my first bad review ever from some survey that my kids did on did they like me, and from a teacher's perspective, how do you not even make a teacher who's I think I would like to see maybe a little more excitement for the teachers. For me, today is this really powerful day where I see other people and I see other teachers and I'm excited. And so while you need a good teacher in the classroom, I think I'd love to see, and I've got 4 of my students at the back, I think I'd like to see more of this. Like maybe we need to give up a day in the classroom. And I hate giving up a day in the classroom, but to get out and to see or to have a speaker come to the school, I think making a teacher excited. We all say we want more money, and maybe that's how you get them into the field, is with a little more money. But give me a professional development day and send me to some conference, and yeah, I'll say I wish I had the money, but really deep down, I'll be so much of a better teacher if I'm having things like this. So that's what I think that a company could do. You don't bring me lunch. I love lunch, but it lasts me for like 2 hours. So I would love for a company to come into the school and say, we want to do this event for the teachers.
This lady in the back with the yellow dress, right here. Tori, if we could get the microphone right here. Actually, that's green, sorry.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Carmen Blackman, and my question is, I'm a community-based nonprofit organization. We've been in Charlotte for 11 years working with students. I'd just like to ask the panel, how important of a role do you think that the community-based organizations play in helping the school system close the achievement gap? And Dr. Morrison, what is your commitment to reaching out to the community-based organizations to bring them in partnership with the CMS school system?
There's a tremendous amount of commitment. We can't do this. This is why I said it's about that relationship building. We've got I was at the Arts and Science Council yesterday, and I was speaking with a nonprofit group before that. And what I've been saying is I want to generate a tidal wave of energy to come into our schools to help support our teachers and our students, to extend those learning opportunities and give a lot of different chances for all of our kids. But as an organization, we got to create the infrastructure for that. I think the worst thing we do is we ask for help, then businesses, civic leaders, faith-based groups come, and then they don't get a response back. We have you doing something that doesn't align to the talent that you bring to the table. So we've got to be worthy. We've got to create the infrastructure to accept the help that is being so willingly offered. When Dr. Perry mentioned about the welcome you get to Charlotte, it is unique and it is tangible. You feel it. But it's not just a welcome to Charlotte. There's always an offer to help. We have to make sure that we have the opportunity to use that help. So inventory our schools, really find out what they need, asset map our community, make those connections. That's what I'm saying. That's the hard work. It's not easy. It is not something you do overnight. But you do it community group by community group, faith-based group by faith-based group, school by school, classroom by classroom, and then we create that better tomorrow. So absolute commitment, and I promise you that. Steve?
Well, I can speak on both as a user of community-based services and at one point a community-based service. Capital Prep was the school that we now have. Capital Prep was a not-for-profit, a community-based organization, and we transformed it from a community-based organization to a school because we felt like we could do it better. We had worked with too many kids in too many schools and seen too many of them put into the lower classes, and we felt like we had a better understanding than some of the folks with whom we were working and a deeper interest in seeing all children be successful. So the only way to prove that we could do it better was to get in there and do it better. So I think that when, as Dr. Morrison said, the community comes in and provides the services that the school district needs as opposed to just the ones you want to give. As Ms. Schmitzy?
Skamitzi.
Wow.
I've had practice.
We practice in school stuff.
Right. So, as she was saying, don't just bring in lunch, bring in what you want. Help should feel like help. Help should feel like what I asked for as opposed to what you want to give me.
The only thing I would say to that is I would love to see a person like the MeckTech advisor at the school who could be your coordinator. Because as a teacher, I'm trying to reach out and I'm trying to do those things, but I'm also trying to teach or trying to help a club. And I'd love to see just one person who doesn't have any other obligations, let that be their job, or let there be one parent volunteer, because I'm wearing too many hats.
We value your time. We're going to take one more question. Yes, over here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Debbie Rubenstein. I'm curious, Dr. Perry, you've had great success within, not as a charter school, but actually within the public school system, which means you've had to manage with or around the many, many state, local regulations and arms of interest in education. Can you talk a little bit about how various regulations have either helped or hurt you, or how you've managed those regulations in ways that might be replicable for others?
Yeah, wow. That's one of those questions that no one ever asks, but I always want to tell. You know, very often people say when they see some of what we've done, they say, well, you're a charter school, you handpick your kids. We have 12% of our children, almost 13% are special ed. That's off the rip. That's higher than most schools you're ever going to come in contact with. So our success is driven in large part by what we do in the school. We've had, in 7-8 years of being open, we've had 5 or 6 superintendents. I'm not sure what number we're on right now. I don't know how many people have called themselves my boss. I usually don't listen, so.
Why are we not surprised?
That's their problem. And really what happens is from the data, let me give you a real, for instance. So I wouldn't be called in Hartford by the Hartford Board of Education to do just what I'm doing here in Charlotte. There are almost 40-something schools in Hartford, and we've received visits from schools as far away as South Korea and Armenia and different Caribbean islands in virtually all 50 states, calls from all 50 states about how we do what we do. 0 schools in Hartford have visited Capital Prep. And the reason why I make that point is that you're not a hero at home. And so I'm sometimes called to come to meetings that, like PDs that I run for entire school districts. Like I was just down in Memphis and did that for the district, and now you want me to sit in front of a fool who has never even done it, like has no record of success, but that's just their job. So the minutia of people in central office just trying to prove that there's a reason why you pay them, that's a lot of what I deal with. And from a regulatory perspective, it's the union crap that I deal with. It really is. And I know you guys say, well, we don't have unions. You do. It's called a teachers association. Get over it. And it's the same thing. And you have the same laws that we do in Connecticut. They're virtually the same. Last in, first out, all of the foolishness. You guys have the same stuff. So that there's not a union rep at your school doesn't mean that you don't have the same limitations that we do. However, nothing forgives like success. It's real hard to threaten to shut us down because we don't have enough white kids when we're sending more kids to college than any other school. It's real hard when our test scores are commensurate with some of the whitest schools in the state, some of the wealthiest schools in the state. It's real hard to make that argument. So I learned the rules. I keep, for instance, if you were to go on my desk, one of the things you'd see is I keep the union contracts on my desk at all times because my job is to know them better than the people who wrote them, as well as any other rules that I'm held to. And so for me, and I say this for any administrator, just learn the rules. If something says optional, I ain't doing it. It's simple. And if you say I have to do it, I want to know why. And so somewhere between there, I had a principal friend of mine yesterday asked me, but do you really not go? No, because I guess they have meetings. I guess in our district we have a meeting every month with all the principals. I hear. And I'm going to make one day. I missed it yesterday, I hear. The problem with central offices, and I'll say this with the superintendent in earshot, the problem with central offices is that they serve the central office and not the rest of the community. They exist to exist. Too often the question is not asked, but why are we doing this? Just yesterday, the call I got from central office was, are you going to send 2 representatives from your school to be part of the literacy team? So what the hell is a literacy team? And don't they have to leave my school to do it? Yes. No. And they were aghast. Well, why not? Why the hell would I? They're teaching. Like, why would I send them out of the building and leave 120 kids without a teacher today? Who came up with this goofy-ass idea? Like, who didn't think to themselves, well, we're going to take 2 teachers from 48 schools, and we're going to sit them all in one room, and we're going to discuss what? That we couldn't send out an email. It just, so that minutia, that stuff makes my job at times feel virtually impossible. The only time I've ever thought of leaving this job, the only time I've ever thought of leaving it is when I just looked and I said, I just can't take, this is not even fun. I spend on the low end, even I who avoid this stuff at all costs, on the low end 60% of my day, just dealing with some edict from downtown that I'm either trying to avoid or trying to answer. I got 7 emails about a bonus that we were supposed to give a teacher from, it was a $600 bonus. I said, are you effing kidding me? Like, you really want, this is 6 emails for $600? Really? It's just that kind of stuff that makes the day-to-day. So then that's all day, right? I visited no classes during this time that I'm responding to this foolish set of emails. They're asking me for justification as to why I gave this person less than I gave the other person, when the justification part was optional, so you know what that means. And then the last part of this is this. The hardest thing to deal with with a central office is the ego of the central office. Their unwillingness to accept that success actually should exist outside the central office. That every single of the superintendent, I'm trying to remember what number we're on right now, I'm sorry, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I'm not, I'm more embarrassed for them. But every single one who comes in is going to do it differently. Everyone comes in much ballyhooed and they're a swashbuckler and they're going to do all the things, and they have all whatever the reform language of that particular year is, they've got it down. That stuff makes our jobs very, very, very difficult, because then they come in and they want to make what we do different. And my suggestion always is, look, homie, why don't you just come in and ask me what I do first? And if I'm doing it badly, then let's talk about that. But leave the successful schools alone. And too few central office people can do that. Because if they're the head of special ed, they got to come in and tell you how to run your special ed department, even though your special ed department is run better than the school that they came from. It's that stuff. I really do appreciate you asking that question, because too often we don't have that wonky conversation about why it's so hard to run schools. It's so hard to run schools because very often central office exists only to exist. It doesn't exist to improve the delivery of services. It exists to get in the way. They don't seem to find solutions. They only seem to create more problems. And they take what could be a simple thing. Parent calls up and says, you sent my kid home because he didn't have a belt on. Then they call, and 7, 8, 9 phone calls, and why did you do that? Later, we've wasted an entire day about a belt. The kid still went home. They're coming back tomorrow, as opposed to them calling and saying, well, that is the principal's decision. He made the decision. Let's move on.
So if you're expecting me to disagree with a lot of what Steve said, I'm not. When I was a high school principal, tell me what you want me to do, set the expectations, I'm fine with that, but when I'm doing it, let me alone. And so that's the same mentality I have. When I walk into a school, and I was in 7 yesterday, and people say to the kids, you know what he does? He's the boss of all bosses. I'm not the boss. I'm a colleague. I want to support great principals. I want to support great teachers. And I want to celebrate success. It's loose tight. Where someone's having success, we want to let them the heck alone and do their job. Where it's not being successful, we got to get tighter, figure out what we can do to support it and raise the expectations and get it fixed. So, I appreciate that mentality. That's why I'm on this pitch. Don't call me Dr. Morrison, call me Heath. Call me Dr. Morrison, feel like you need a shot, and that's bad for you and worse for me. I'm just Heath. I'm this person who never thought that he was going to be sitting in front of anybody. I could have been in a classroom. My entire career been happy. I turned down the opportunity to be a principal twice before I finally went into it. It's about servant leadership. And if you get servant leadership, you understand why this job is so important. The power that you have, it's not the statutory authority. It's the people want to follow you. And then you've got something special. What is frustrating is when you try to do the work that we try to do, when you have things that don't make sense. So, I spoke about the fact that in this country we've allowed people to say, well, it's about poverty. Okay, well, that's a nice way of not having a conversation about race a lot of times. But sometimes, there are issues about poverty that they're not barriers, but they're challenges, and challenges can be overcome. So let me tell you one of the most frustrating things about being in North Carolina. And I'm a new North Carolinian. But we look at research, and when kids are impacted by poverty, they lose half of what they learned the prior year. And so this loss of summer learning is real. It's researched. And if we could simply change our calendar time, kids in poverty don't have to lose half of what they learned the prior year. So let's go school year-round. And if we can't afford to go year-round school, then at least let me take my 180 days that I have with my kids and spread them out so that we're not taking them off 3 months. But no, we can't do that in North Carolina, okay? Why? Well, we all know the reasons why. But if we're really going to be about every child every day for a better tomorrow, then let's simply give me the regulatory authority, because if you tell me to treat my school like a business, here's what I know about my business. A business gets to set its hours of operation for peak efficiency. I need to have that authority so I don't have to have half the kids we serve in the school district lose half of what they learned the prior year. Give me that, hold me accountable, and we'll call it a day.
And speaking of we'll call it a day, I'm afraid we're going to have to call it a morning. But before we call it a morning, I want to remind all of our friends in business and industry that we need your help with the MEC Tech Advisor Program. If you could drop your card off to Melissa on the way out, we would appreciate it. And one more thing. This is MeckEd's first foray into bringing back the annual community breakfast. My friend Pat Riley told me 2 years ago when I came to MeckEd, Bill, you have to bring that breakfast back. And we have. We thought we'd have 200 people today. We ended up selling us out at over 350. I think next year it's safe to say we'll have to go to another venue because we turned people away for the past couple of days. MeckEd is all about one thing. We're about making sure that we have successful schools in every zip code. We know that today that is not the case. We know that it's more difficult in some of our neighborhoods. Steve, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention with such honesty and humor, I might add. Humor is really important. But we really thank you for being here. We thank you for supporting MeckEd. We thank you for supporting CMS, because great public schools are the best economic engine we can have in our community. Thanks so much.